The lock clicked. Then the bolt slid into place. Then the light went out. I stood frozen at the bottom of my son's basement stairs, casserole dish still warm in my hands, listening to the sound of my own breathing in the sudden darkness. Above me, footsteps retreated across hardwood floors. Then I heard her voice. Brittany. My daughter-in-law. Whispering but not quietly enough. Just keep her down there until my parents leave. She always makes everything so awkward with her stories. More footsteps. Heavier ones. My son Noah. His voice drifted through the heating vent near the ceiling. She'll be fine, Britt. It's just a couple hours. She won't even notice. Laughter echoed from upstairs. Crystal glasses clinked. Someone made a toast. My heart hammered against my ribs as I climbed back up those stairs and pounded on the door. Noah. Noah, open this door. Nothing. I slammed my palm against the wood until it stung. Still nothing. My phone. I'd left it upstairs with my coat. Brittany had insisted. We have a basket for phones and coats so nothing gets lost. I'd smiled and handed it over like a fool. Now I understood. The humiliation burned hot in my chest, but something colder settled beneath it. Rage. Pure clear rage. Because the child I'd raised alone after his father died, the boy I'd worked double shifts to put through college, had just locked me in his basement like I was garbage to hide from company. My name is Audrey Kane. I'm 62 years old, a retired nurse from Providence Hospital, and until 5 minutes ago I thought I knew my son. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for more interesting revenge stories. I'm a widow. My husband Thomas died 5 years back from a heart attack while shoveling snow in our driveway. 1 minute he was laughing about getting exercise, the next he was gone. Noah was 28 then, just married to Brittany, working his first real job at an accounting firm. I helped them however I could. Co-signed their first condo loan. Paid half the down payment from Thomas's life insurance. Never asked for a penny back. Just wanted to see my boy happy. This weekend I'd driven 3 hours from my rental house to meet my first grandchild. Little Emma, 6 months old. I'd stayed up nights stitching a quilt from Thomas's old work shirts, the ones Noah used to bury his face in when he missed his dad. Blue Oxford cotton, soft flannel, a piece of his grandfather sewn into every square. I'd brought the quilt in my overnight bag, along with the casserole Brittany requested. Green bean casserole. Her favorite, she texted. Now I stood in their finished basement, surrounded by their expensive furniture and designer throw pillows, locked away like a family secret. The fluorescent lights had clicked off automatically, leaving only a thin strip of daylight from a window well near the ceiling. I felt my way to a workbench and sat down heavily. My eyes adjusted to the dim light. The basement was large, renovated with gray laminate floors and white walls. A home gym occupied one corner. Expensive equipment barely used by the look of it. A wine rack held dozens of bottles. Leather furniture formed a seating area around a massive television. This wasn't some dusty storage space. This was their showpiece. And they'd locked me in it. I spotted my quilt on a side table near the stairs, still folded in its clear storage bag. Unopened. I'd given it to Brittany yesterday when I arrived, watching her face as I explained each fabric piece. This blue one was from Thomas's favorite shirt. He wore it to Noah's high school graduation. And this green flannel, he had it on the day we brought Noah home from the hospital. Brittany had smiled tightly. How thoughtful. Then she'd set it aside and changed the subject to her parents' upcoming visit. Now it sat abandoned in their basement just like me. I lifted the bag, pressed it against my chest. The insult cut deeper than the locked door. Through the heating vent, I heard Brittany's mother laugh at something. Oh, Brittany, you've decorated so beautifully. And Noah, your career must be going wonderfully to afford all this. Noah's response was muffled, modest. Playing humble. I closed my eyes and breathed slowly through my nose. 2 hours, he'd said. I could survive 2 hours. 40 minutes passed. Maybe longer. I'd lost track of time in the dimness. Then I heard it. A small voice outside the window well. Hello? Are you okay down there? I jumped up and pressed my face against the narrow window. A child's face peered down at me, small and worried. A boy maybe 8 years old with dark curly hair. I'm locked in, I called up. Can you get your parents? The boy's eyes went wide. Locked in? Like trapped? Yes. Please, can you get help? He disappeared. For a terrible moment I thought he'd run away scared. Then I heard adult voices. Heavy footsteps above. The boy's voice urgent. Dad, there's a lady trapped in the neighbor's basement. More footsteps inside the house now. Coming down the stairs. The lock rattled. The door flew open. Light flooded in, blinding. I blinked at Noah's silhouette in the doorway, his face pale and frozen. Behind him stood a man I didn't know, the boy clutching his father's hand. Mom. Noah's voice cracked. I didn't realize the door was locked. Why? I'd heard him. I'd heard them both. Brittany appeared beside him, her smile brittle and bright. Oh my goodness, Audrey. The latch on that door has been sticking lately. We had no idea you were stuck. Another lie. I looked from Noah to Brittany to the neighbor and his son. The boy looked confused. His father looked disgusted. I walked past all of them without a word, grabbed my coat and phone from the basket and headed for the door. Mom, wait. Noah caught up to me on the driveway. His hand touched my shoulder. I shrugged it off. Don't. It really was a mistake. The door sticks sometimes and we didn't hear you knocking because of the music. I heard you, Noah. My voice came out flat and cold. I heard both of you through the vent. Every word. His face drained of color. Brittany appeared in the doorway, arms crossed, watching. Her parents stood behind her, curious and confused. The perfect dinner party interrupted. Noah opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Mom, you have to understand. Brittany's parents are very particular and you sometimes say things that are, you make jokes that not everyone gets and we just thought, you thought you'd lock me in the basement like a dog. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed, sharp and bitter. I drove 3 hours to meet my granddaughter. I made your wife's favorite casserole. I brought a quilt I spent months making. And you locked me away because I embarrass you. You're being dramatic. I'm being honest. I turned toward my car. Noah grabbed my arm harder this time. Mom, please. Don't leave like this. Don't make a scene. I pulled free and looked him straight in the eye. I'm not making anything, Noah. You already did that. I got in my car and drove away. In my rearview mirror, I saw Noah standing in the driveway, Brittany pulling him back inside, the neighbor's boy pointing at their house and saying something to his father. The bus ride home felt endless. I'd left my car at Noah's and taken a rideshare to the bus station instead. Couldn't stomach driving 3 hours with tears blurring my vision. The bus was half empty, smelling of recycled air and stale coffee. I sat by a window and watched suburbs give way to highway, then to the smaller towns I knew better. My phone buzzed constantly. Noah calling. Noah texting. Mom, please answer. We need to talk. You're overreacting. I turned the phone face down and didn't respond. An older woman across the aisle smiled at me sympathetically. Family troubles? I nodded. She didn't pry. Just patted my hand as she got off at her stop. By the time I reached my small rental house, the humiliation had hardened into something else. Determination. I unlocked my front door, dropped my bag and sat at my kitchen table in the dark. I thought about Thomas. About how he'd raised Noah with me until that snowy morning stole him away. About the promises we'd made to always put family first. Noah had broken those promises today. But I wouldn't. I'd raised him better than this. Somewhere along the way, something had twisted him into someone who could lock his own mother away like a secret shame. I needed to understand how. And I needed to make sure he never did it to anyone else. Especially not to little Emma, who deserved better than parents who treated family like inconveniences. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. Around 3 in the morning I got up and went to my filing cabinet. I keep everything organized. Old habit from nursing where misfiled paperwork could mean life or death. I pulled the folder labeled Noah, Financial. Inside was the promissory note from when I'd co-signed their condo loan 7 years ago. I'd paid $40,000 toward the down payment. Thomas's life insurance money. The note said they'd pay me back within 5 years. They never had. I'd never pushed. Family doesn't charge family, Thomas used to say. But I'd kept the paperwork anyway. Just in case. I spread the documents across my kitchen table. The original mortgage application. The closing documents with my signature as co-signer. My credit report from that year showing the debt appearing under my name. Then I pulled up my current credit report on my laptop. The mortgage still showed. But there was something else. A new entry from 8 months ago. A cash-out refinance on Noah's property. $85,000. My name appeared as non-occupant co-borrower. I stared at the screen. I'd never signed anything 8 months ago. I'd barely even talked to Noah then. He'd been busy with the new baby, he'd said. Too stressed for visits. My hands started shaking. I zoomed in on the signature page which I'd requested from the credit bureau. There was my name in neat electronic script. But I'd never signed it. Someone had forged my signature. Morning came gray and cold. I made coffee and sat with my laptop following the paper trail. The refinance had been processed by Summit Lending Group. I called their customer service line at 8 a.m. sharp. Summit Lending, this is Marcus speaking. Hello. My name is Audrey Kane. I'm calling to verify a refinance that shows my name as co-borrower. Account number. I read it off. Can you confirm my signature on the documents? Typing sounds. One moment, Mrs. Kane. Yes, I see you here as non-occupant co-borrower. The refinance was completed in March of last year. Is there a problem? I never signed those documents. Silence. Then carefully, Mrs. Kane, we have your electronic signature on file. It was verified through DocuSign. I never used DocuSign. I never authorized this loan. I need copies of everything immediately. More typing faster now. I'll need to transfer you to our fraud department. They put me on hold. Classical music played. My coffee went cold. Finally, a woman's voice. Mrs. Kane? This is Susan from Fraud Prevention. I understand there's a concern about signature authorization. I explained everything. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said, we'll open an investigation. I'm sending you a fraud affidavit to complete. In the meantime, we'll freeze any activity on the account. What about the $85,000? Where did it go? The borrowers, Noah and Brittany Kane, received it as a lump sum payment to their checking account. Beyond that, I can't disclose without their permission. I thanked her and hung up. Then I called my old colleague Miriam. Miriam had retired from nursing the same year I did, but she'd gone back to school and become a paralegal. We'd stayed close. She answered on the second ring. Audrey. How was the visit with Noah and the new baby? I told her everything. The basement. The locked door. The forged signature. She listened in shocked silence. When I finished, she said, Audrey, this is elder financial abuse. You could file criminal charges. I don't want to destroy him, Miriam. He's still my son. Then what do you want? I thought about that. I want him to understand what he did. I want to protect myself. And I want to make sure Emma grows up with parents who have some integrity left. Hey, come to my office tomorrow. Bring everything you have. We'll figure this out. That afternoon, I found the baby monitor in my overnight bag. I'd bought it weeks ago, planning to leave it at Noah's house so I could listen to Emma when I visited. Old nursing instinct wanting to hear if the baby needed anything. I'd forgotten to set it up during my disaster of a visit. Out of habit, I turned it on. Static crackled. Then voices clear as day. Brittany's voice. Once she signs the trust documents, we're free and clear. My dad says she won't even read them if we make it sound routine. Noah's voice quieter. What if she asks questions? She won't. She never does. She'll just sign because you ask her to. My blood went cold. I grabbed my phone and started recording. Over the next week, I gathered evidence methodically. The forged refinance documents from Summit Lending. The fraud affidavit I'd completed and notarized. My original promissory note from 7 years ago. The baby monitor recordings of Brittany and Noah discussing getting me to sign trust documents I knew nothing about. I also reached out to the neighbor who'd helped me escape the basement. His name was Carl Morrison. He lived 3 doors down from Noah. When I called and explained who I was, he remembered immediately. The woman who was locked in. Is everything okay? Not exactly. I'm trying to understand what happened. Did you by chance have your doorbell camera running that day? I do. It faces the street, but it caught your car arriving and you going inside. Want me to check if it got anything else? Please. He called back an hour later. Mrs. Kane, I've got something interesting. After my son Milo heard you and we went over, my camera caught you leaving. But it also caught you knocking on that basement window well about 30 minutes before Milo found you. You were calling for help. The timestamp's clear. Can you send me that footage? Already done. Check your email. I opened the video. There I was trapped behind narrow glass, banging and shouting. The timestamp showed it was during their dinner party. They'd known I was down there. They'd heard me. They'd left me there anyway. I saved the video to 3 different drives. Then I called Miriam and told her I was ready to meet with a lawyer. Miriam introduced me to Thomas Reed, an attorney who specialized in elder law and financial exploitation. His office was small but organized, walls lined with law books and case files. He listened to my story without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Kane, you have a strong case for fraud, identity theft, and financial exploitation. The forged signature alone is a felony. Adding the recorded conversations about deceiving you into signing additional documents makes this even more serious. I don't want Noah to go to prison. I understand. But he needs to face consequences. What outcome would satisfy you? I'd thought about this constantly. I want my name removed from all loans and financial obligations. I want the money I originally gave them repaid. I want a formal acknowledgement of what they did. And I want assurance that Emma will be protected if they're this willing to exploit their own family. Thomas nodded slowly. We can structure this as a civil case with criminal fraud charges held in reserve. Essentially, we'll offer them a way out if they comply with specific terms. If they refuse or retaliate, we file criminal charges. What would those terms be? Full repayment of your original $40,000 plus the fraudulent refinance costs that could fall on you if the loan defaults. Removal of your name from all financial instruments. A written confession and apology. And mandatory financial counseling as a condition of maintaining custody. Can we really require counseling? If we can demonstrate that their financial crimes put the child at risk, yes. A pattern of fraud suggests instability. I thought about Emma, innocent in all of this. Let's do it. Thomas began drafting documents. The next day I drove back to Noah's house unannounced. Brittany answered the door, Emma on her hip. Her smile faltered when she saw me. Audrey. We weren't expecting you. I know. Is Noah home? He's at work. What's this about? I stepped inside without being invited. Brittany backed up, confused. Emma reached for me, babbling. I ached to hold her but kept my hands at my sides. I need to discuss some financial documents. Brittany's face hardened. I handle all our paperwork. What documents? I pulled out a copy of the refinance statement. This one. Where my signature appears even though I never signed it. The color drained from her face. She shifted Emma to her other hip. I don't know what you're talking about. Brittany, I have proof. Electronic records, bank statements, and recordings of you and Noah discussing how to get me to sign more documents without reading them. Her mouth opened and closed. Emma started fussing. You recorded us? That's illegal. Actually, in this state, one-party consent is legal. And since it was my baby monitor in your house, technically I was the party who consented. I checked with Thomas about this. Brittany's hands were shaking now. You need to leave. I'm leaving. But first, I want you to know that Summit Lending has frozen your refinance account pending a fraud investigation. You'll be hearing from them soon. And from my attorney. I turned to go, then paused. That quilt I made? I'm taking it back. Emma deserves it when she's old enough to appreciate what it means. Not before. I picked up the quilt from where it still sat, untouched, on their hall table. Brittany didn't try to stop me. That night, Noah called. His voice was tight with panic. Mom, what the hell did you do? Brittany said you came to the house threatening us. I didn't threaten anyone. I stated facts. You can't just accuse us of fraud. We're family. Family doesn't forge signatures, Noah. Family doesn't lock their mother in a basement. Family doesn't plot to steal more money while pretending everything's fine. Silence. Then quieter. It wasn't supposed to be like this. What wasn't? Any of it. We got in over our heads. The house, the cars, Brittany's student loans. We needed help. So you stole from me? We were going to pay you back. With what money, Noah? The refinance you took out in my name? You do understand that if you default on that loan, they'll come after me. I'll lose everything I have left. My credit, my savings, maybe even my house. He was crying now. I could hear it in his voice. I didn't think about that part. Brittany said it would be fine, that you'd never even know, that we'd pay it off before I died. The words came out harsh. Is that the plan? Wait for me to die so you can inherit what's left without consequences. No. Mom, no, I swear. I'm done, Noah. My lawyer will be in touch. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I sat in my kitchen in the house I'd lived in for 6 months after selling the family home when the mortgage got too expensive on a widow's pension, and I cried. Not for the money. For the boy I'd raised who'd turned into someone I didn't recognize. The next morning I met with a banker. Mr. Delgado, the same man who'd helped Thomas and me open our first joint account 40 years ago. He was older now, near retirement, but his memory was sharp. Audrey. I heard about Thomas. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Frank. I need your help with something. I explained the situation. He pulled up my accounts on his computer, then Noah's linked accounts. His expression grew darker as he scrolled through the transactions. This refinance was processed through Summit, not us, but because you're listed as co-borrower, it appears on your credit profile tied to our system. And Audrey, he turned the screen toward me. According to this, you're legally liable for the full $85,000 if they default. Can they default? Noah has a good job. Frank pulled up more screens. Noah's employment status changed 4 months ago. He's working part-time now as a contractor, not salaried. Income's cut by 60%. Brittany's unemployed. They've missed 2 payments already. My stomach dropped. 2 payments. The loan is already in delinquency. Summit will come after both borrowers. That includes you. I gripped the edge of his desk. What do I do? Legally, you could file for removal as co-borrower on grounds of fraud, which you're already doing. But until that's resolved, you're on the hook. If this goes into foreclosure, they'll garnish your Social Security, your savings, everything. I walked out of that bank feeling like the ground had disappeared beneath my feet. Everything I had left from Thomas, from 40 years of work, could vanish because my son had forged my name. That night I called Thomas Reed again. We need to move faster. Thomas filed an emergency motion with the court for an injunction against Noah and Brittany, demanding they cease any financial activity using my name and information. He also filed a formal fraud complaint with the State Attorney General's office and Summit Lending's fraud department. This puts pressure on them from multiple directions, Thomas explained. Criminal investigation, civil lawsuit, and bank fraud inquiry. They'll have to respond. How long? Days, not weeks. The bank won't wait. Neither will the AG's office once they see the evidence. 3 days later I received a call from a detective. Her name was Angela Torres, Financial Crimes Division. Mrs. Kane? I'm calling about the fraud complaint you filed regarding forged loan documents. I'd like to meet and review your evidence. We met at a coffee shop near the police station. Detective Torres was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense attitude. I walked her through everything, showing her documents, playing the baby monitor recordings, showing Carl's doorbell footage. She took notes silently. When I finished, she sat back. Mrs. Kane, this is a clear-cut case of identity theft and fraud. But I have to ask, do you want to press charges against your own son? I'd known this question was coming. I want him to take responsibility. If that means charges, then yes. She nodded. I'll be in touch. 2 days later, Noah called again. This time his voice was different. Hello. Mom, the police came to my office. They questioned me about the refinance. My boss heard everything. I'm suspended pending investigation. I closed my eyes. Noah and Brittany lost her job. Her firm ran an audit after the police called them. They found discrepancies in multiple client files. She'd been fudging documents there too. The pieces fell into place. This wasn't just about me. This was a pattern. Over the next week, the walls closed in on Noah and Brittany from every direction. Summit Lending froze their accounts and demanded immediate repayment of the fraudulent refinance. The State Attorney General's office opened a formal investigation. Detective Torres filed charges for identity theft, fraud, and elder exploitation. And then the HOA got involved. Carl, my rescuer neighbor, had filed a complaint with their homeowners association about illegal modifications to Noah's basement. Apparently, the finished basement wasn't up to code. The electrical work was unpermitted. The egress window was too small for fire safety. and they'd been running a short-term rental operation through the space, which violated HOA rules. How did you know about the rentals? I asked Carl when he called to update me. Saw different people coming and going with luggage. Checked Airbnb. They've been renting out that basement for 8 months. 8 months. The same time as the refinance. They'd taken my money and immediately started trying to generate more income to cover the payments. The HOA issued a cease and desist letter and a $10,000 fine for violations. The city building inspector followed up with a notice of code violations and an order to halt all basement use until proper permits were obtained and corrections made. Noah called that evening. Mom, you have to stop this. You're destroying us. I'm not destroying anything, Noah. I'm protecting myself from what you already did. The HOA, the inspector, the bank, the police, you're behind all of it. No. Carl filed the HOA complaint because what you did to me bothered him. The inspector came because the HOA called them. The police are investigating because you committed fraud. I only told the truth. Please. His voice cracked. Emma needs us. If we lose everything, where will she go? My heart clenched. That's not my fault, Noah. That's yours. The breaking point came at a dinner party I wasn't invited to but heard about anyway. Carl called me afterward, his voice tight with anger. Mrs. Kane, I thought you should know. Noah and Brittany hosted Brittany's parents tonight. Tried to act like everything was normal. But officers showed up mid-dinner with subpoenas for financial documents. The whole party fell apart. Officers? Detective Torres. Yes. She was very professional, but the timing was deliberate. Everyone saw it. I hadn't asked Torres to time it that way, but I understood the strategy. Public pressure. The same kind of humiliation they'd subjected me to. Except this time they'd earned it. The next morning, Brittany's mother called me. I'd met her once briefly during that disastrous visit. Her voice was cold. Audrey, I don't know what kind of vendetta you have against my daughter, but you need to stop. You're tearing this family apart. Your daughter and my son forged my signature and stole $85,000. That's not a vendetta. That's fraud. They made a mistake. They were desperate. They were greedy. There's a difference. You're going to ruin their lives over money? What kind of mother are you? I'd asked myself that question every night since this started. The kind who won't let her child become a criminal without consequences. Emma deserves better than parents who think stealing is acceptable. She hung up on me. But her words stayed with me. What kind of mother was I? The kind who'd worked double shifts to give Noah every opportunity. The kind who'd co-signed loans and given money without expecting repayment. The kind who'd driven 3 hours with a handmade quilt to meet her grandchild, only to be locked in a basement like an embarrassment. I was the kind of mother who loved her son enough to stop him from destroying himself completely. Even if he hated me for it. Noah showed up at my house 3 weeks after everything started falling apart. I watched him through the window, sitting in his car in my driveway for 10 minutes before finally getting out. He looked terrible. Unshaven, rumpled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. I opened the door before he could knock. Mom. His voice was barely a whisper. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked to my kitchen table and collapsed into a chair, the same chair he'd sat in as a teenager doing homework while I made dinner after hospital shifts. The same chair where he'd told me about proposing to Brittany. Where we'd planned his wedding. Mom, I'm sorry. The words came out broken. I'm so sorry. For all of it. The basement, the loan, the lies. Everything. I sat across from him. Waited. I don't know how it got this bad. We just kept spending, kept trying to keep up with Brittany's friends, her parents' expectations. The house, the cars, the furniture. It was never enough. And when the bills started piling up, Brittany said you'd never notice if we used your name for a refinance. Just temporary, she said. Just until we got ahead. But you never got ahead. He shook his head. We spent it immediately. New car, paid off credit cards that we just maxed out again, renovations so we could rent the basement. It disappeared in 6 months. And then you were going to get me to sign more documents without reading them. His face crumpled. I know how it sounds. But I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't want to face what we'd done. And locking me in the basement? Was that Brittany's idea too, or yours? He flinched like I'd hit him. Whine. She wanted you to stay upstairs but out of the way. I suggested the basement because I knew you'd see the refinance papers if you were in the living room. I'm a coward, Mom. I'm everything you raised me not to be, and I'm so sorry. I looked at my son, really looked at him. He was 43 years old, but right now he looked like the scared little boy who'd crawled into my bed after his father died, asking if I was going to leave too. What happens now? He asked. That depends on you. I laid it out for him simply. Thomas had drafted a settlement agreement. If Noah and Brittany signed it, I would drop the civil lawsuit and request the criminal charges be reduced to restitution and probation instead of prison time. The terms were non-negotiable. Full repayment of my original $40,000 plus $15,000 in legal fees and damages. Removal of my name from all loans and financial obligations within 90 days. A written confession detailing the fraud, signed and notarized. Mandatory financial counseling for both of them for 2 years. And the creation of a trust fund for Emma, funded by their repayments, which I would control until Emma turned 18. The trust would ensure she had money for college, no matter what happened to her parents' finances. If you refuse, I said, the criminal charges proceed. You could face 5 to 10 years in prison for fraud and identity theft. Brittany, Emma would go into foster care or live with Brittany's parents while you're incarcerated. Noah's hands shook as he read through the agreement. Where are we supposed to get $40,000? Sell the house. Downsize. Get second jobs. I don't care how. You created this debt. You pay it back. And if we can't make the payments? Then the trust still gets funded, just more slowly. But the counseling isn't optional. If you miss a single session, I report you immediately and the criminal charges move forward. He looked at me with something like disbelief. You'd really send me to prison? I'd really protect Emma from growing up thinking this behavior is normal. That seemed to break something in him. He signed the agreement right there at my kitchen table. Then he called Brittany and put her on speaker. She was cold at first, defensive, but when Noah explained the alternative, she agreed too. Thomas came over within an hour to notarize everything and file it with the court. Detective Torres was copied on all documents. The wheels were in motion. The next months were hard. Noah and Brittany listed their house immediately. It sold within 3 weeks, though at a loss once they paid off the fraudulent refinance and the legal fees. They moved into a small rental apartment across town. Noah took a second job delivering groceries on weekends. Brittany found work as a receptionist at a dental office, humbled from her previous position at the mortgage firm. They started attending financial counseling sessions twice a month. I received copies of their attendance records. They never missed a session. Slowly, painfully, they began repaying the debt. $500 a month. It would take years, but every payment went into Emma's trust fund. I invested it carefully, watching it grow. Emma would have her college education paid for no matter what. I didn't see them during this time. It was too raw. But I received updates from their counselor, who called me quarterly with their permission. They're making progress, she told me. Facing what they did. Understanding the impact. It's not easy, but they're doing the work. In the 8th month, I received a letter in the mail. Noah's handwriting on the envelope. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity won. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Mom, I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I want you to know that I'm grateful you stopped me before I hurt Emma the way I hurt you. The counseling helped me see that I was teaching her to lie, to manipulate, to value appearances over integrity. You saved all of us, even though it felt like you were destroying us. I hope someday you'll let me try to be the son you deserve. The son Dad would be proud of. I miss you. Noah. I read it 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to respond. But I kept it. 10 months after everything began, I received a call from the Department of Children and Families. My heart stopped. Mrs. Kane? This is Melissa Park, DCF caseworker. I'm calling about your granddaughter, Emma Kane. We received a report of neglect. What? From whom? Anonymous tip. We investigated and found no evidence of current neglect, but we're required to follow up. Given your ongoing legal situation with the parents, we wanted to notify you. Is Emma safe? Yes. The home is clean, the child is healthy, and both parents are employed and cooperative. However, given the documented fraud case and financial instability, we'll be conducting quarterly check-ins for the next year. After she hung up, I called Noah immediately. Did DCF come to your house? This morning. Mom, I swear Emma's fine. We're taking care of her. I think Brittany's mother called them, trying to prove we're unfit so she could get custody. I believed him. I'd heard the desperation in his voice, but also something else. Determination. He was fighting for his daughter. 2 weeks later, DCF called again. Mrs. Kane, we have a custody hearing scheduled regarding Emma. Both parents requested you to be present to testify about the home environment. They want me there? Yes. Your testimony could be crucial in determining placement. Will you come? I said yes. The hearing was held on a gray Tuesday morning in family court. Noah and Brittany sat on one side with their attorney. Brittany's parents sat on the other side with theirs, seeking emergency custody. I sat in the back until I was called. The judge was a woman in her 50s with tired eyes and reading glasses perched on her nose. She looked up when my name was called. Mrs. Kane, you're the paternal grandmother, correct? Yes, Your Honor. And you've filed fraud charges against both parents regarding financial exploitation? I did, Your Honor. But we've reached a settlement agreement. They're in compliance. The judge reviewed papers in front of her. The grandparents seeking custody claim the parents are financially unstable and have demonstrated criminal behavior that puts the child at risk. What's your assessment? I took a breath. This was the moment that mattered. Your Honor, my son and his wife made terrible choices. They committed fraud against me, their own family. But since then they've taken full responsibility. They sold their house, downsized, got jobs, and are attending mandatory financial counseling. They're paying restitution into a trust fund for Emma's future. Are they perfect? No. But they're trying to become better people. Emma is healthy, loved, and safe. Do you believe the child is currently at risk? No, Your Honor. I believe she's with parents who made mistakes and are learning from them. That's different from being with parents who refuse to change. Brittany's mother stood up. Your Honor, she's biased. She's the victim here. The judge held up her hand. Mrs. Kane has every reason to want her son punished, yet she's testifying in his favor. That carries weight. Sit down, please. The judge ruled that Emma would remain with Noah and Brittany, with quarterly DCF oversight and continued counseling. Brittany's parents looked furious. Noah looked stunned. As I left the courthouse, Noah caught up to me in the hallway. Mom, thank you. I nodded but didn't stop walking. Don't thank me. I did it for Emma, not for you. I know. But still. Thank you. A year and a half after the basement incident, I received an invitation in the mail. Emma's second birthday party. The invitation was handwritten by Noah. Mom, I know we don't have the right to ask, but Emma should know her grandmother. If you're willing, we'd love to have you there. No pressure. No expectations. Just an invitation. Love, Noah. I stared at that invitation for 3 days. Miriam told me I didn't owe them anything. Carl said I should follow my heart. Thomas Reed said it was my choice entirely. In the end, I decided to go. Not because I'd forgiven everything, but because Emma deserved to know where she came from. I arrived at their small apartment with a gift wrapped carefully. Noah answered the door and his eyes filled with tears when he saw me. Mom, you came. I came for Emma. The apartment was tiny compared to their old house. Rented furniture, second-hand decorations. But it was clean, warm. Emma toddled over to me, curious. She had Noah's eyes and Thomas's smile. I knelt down to her level. Hi, Emma. I'm your grandma. He grabbed my finger and giggled. Brittany appeared from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. She froze when she saw me. Audrey. Brittany. We stood there awkwardly until Emma pulled me toward a pile of toys. I spent the next hour on the floor playing with my granddaughter while Noah and Brittany kept their distance, letting me have space. Other guests arrived. A few friends, no parents on either side. The party was small, humble. Nothing like the lavish dinner party where I'd been locked away. As I was leaving, Brittany stopped me at the door. Audrey, I owe you an apology. A real one. What we did to you is unforgivable. I convinced myself we deserved that money, that lifestyle. I treated you like an obstacle instead of family. I'm ashamed of who I was. I'm trying to be better. I looked at her carefully. She'd aged in these months. The polished veneer was gone. She looked tired, humbled, real. Keep trying, I said simply. Then I left. The payments continued like clockwork. $500 a month, deposited into Emma's trust fund. I watched it grow, invested carefully. By Emma's third birthday, there was over $20,000 in the account. Enough for a good start on college. Maybe more if they kept paying. I received quarterly updates from DCF. Emma was thriving. The apartment was always clean, the child well-fed and happy. Noah had been promoted to full-time at his firm again. Brittany was taking online courses in accounting, rebuilding her career slowly. The financial counselor reported they'd paid off their credit cards and were living within their means for the first time in their marriage. "They're different people now," she told me during our yearly call. "They talk about money openly, make decisions together, and they've stopped comparing themselves to others. The change is real." I wanted to believe her. Part of me did. But trust, once broken, doesn't rebuild quickly. I started seeing Emma regularly. Not at their apartment, but at parks, children's museums, places where I could spend time with my granddaughter without navigating the complicated territory of my relationship with her parents. Emma called me Grandma Audrey, and would run to me when I arrived, arms outstretched. Those moments healed something in me I hadn't realized was broken. One afternoon, Noah asked if he could talk to me alone while Emma played. We sat on a park bench watching her on the swings. "Mom, I've been in therapy. Individual, not just the financial counseling." "Oh. Yeah. Trying to understand how I became someone who could lock his own mother in a basement. How I justified it to myself." I stayed quiet, letting him talk. "My therapist helped me see that I'd been performing for years. Performing success, performing happiness, performing the perfect life. And you were the one person who could see through all of it because you knew me before I started performing. That's why Brittany and I wanted you hidden. Not because you were embarrassing. Because you were real and we weren't. And now I'm trying to be real too. It's harder than pretending. But it's better." I nodded slowly. "Keep trying, Noah. For Emma. For yourself." 2 years after the basement incident, I received a call from Thomas Reed. "Audrey, I have good news. Summit Lending has officially removed your name from the refinance loan. Noah and Brittany refinanced it in their names only. You're clear." I sat down heavily. "I'm free. Completely. Your credit report will be corrected within 30 days. You're no longer liable for any of their debt." I cried. Not sad tears but relief. The weight I'd carried for 2 years lifted. That evening Noah called. "Mom, the lawyer said the paperwork went through. You're officially off the loan." I heard. "I know this doesn't fix everything. But it's done. You're protected. Like you should have been from the start." "Thank you." Pause. Then softer. "Mom, would you come to dinner this weekend? I want to talk to you about something." I hesitated. "What about?" "Emma. And the quilt." That Saturday I drove to their apartment with the quilt in my car. I'd kept it all this time, waiting for the right moment. Noah answered the door and hugged me. It was the first time I'd let him do that in 2 years. Brittany had made dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad. Emma chattered through the meal about preschool and her new favorite toy. After dinner, Noah brought out a wooden box. "Mom, I made this in woodworking class. I've been taking classes at the community center. Learning Dad's old hobby." He opened it. Inside were photographs of Thomas, arranged carefully. Thomas holding baby Noah. Thomas teaching Noah to ride a bike. Thomas at Noah's college graduation. I wanted Emma to know her grandfather. To understand where she comes from. I wanted to remember who he was and who he taught me to be. Before I forgot. I touched the photographs with shaking fingers. "He'd be proud that you're trying to make this right." "I brought something too," I said quietly. I went to my car and returned with the quilt. Emma's eyes lit up. "Pretty." I unfolded it on the floor and showed her each square. "This was your grandfather's favorite shirt. And this one he wore when he taught your daddy to fish. Every piece tells a story about the man you're named after." Emma traced the fabric with small fingers. Noah knelt beside her. "This is family, Emma. This is what matters. Not houses or cars or impressing people. Just this. People who love you even when you mess up." I looked at my son, really looked at him. He wasn't the boy I'd raised anymore. He wasn't the man who'd locked me in a basement either. He was somewhere in between, still becoming. "The quilt is Emma's now," I said. "Keep it safe for her." Brittany wiped her eyes. "We will. I promise." 3 years after that terrible weekend, I sat on my small porch watching the sunset. My phone buzzed with a photo from Noah. Emma, now 5 years old, wrapped in the quilt, reading a book. The caption read, "She asked for a story about Grandpa Thomas. Told her about how he used to read to me every night. She said Grandma Audrey should come read to her too." I smiled and texted back, "Next week. I'll bring his favorite book." The trust fund had grown to $38,000. Noah and Brittany were 2 years from paying off the full debt. After that, they wanted to continue contributing to Emma's fund voluntarily. "She should have what we didn't," Noah had said. "A foundation built on truth, not debt." I'd started volunteering at a senior center, teaching other older adults about financial literacy and elder abuse prevention. I shared my story carefully without names. Many had similar experiences. Children or grandchildren who'd exploited trust for money. It was more common than people admitted. But some stories like mine had hopeful endings. I kept the baby monitor on my shelf, a reminder of how listening carefully can save you from disaster. I kept Carl's doorbell footage backed up in 3 places, evidence that truth matters. I kept the promissory note, now marked paid in full, in Noah's handwriting, framed in my kitchen. Not as a trophy but as a testament. People asked if I regretted how I handled it. If I wished I'd just let it go, kept the peace, preserved the relationship at any cost. I always answered the same way. Family shouldn't require you to set yourself on fire to keep them warm. Love without boundaries isn't love. It's just enabling. Noah and I would never have the relationship we had before. That innocent trust was gone, buried in a basement with a locked door. But we had something different now. Something harder, one, and maybe more honest. Respect. Understanding. Boundaries. As the sun set, I rocked gently in my chair, the quilt I'd made for Emma folded on my lap until next week's visit. My phone buzzed again. Emma's voice message, "Hi Grandma Audrey. I love you. Come read to me soon." I saved the message and smiled. This was what mattered. Not revenge, not punishment, not even forgiveness in the traditional sense. Just the slow, hard work of rebuilding something broken into something new. Something that could hold weight without collapsing. Something real. If you've ever been betrayed by the ones you raised, the ones you sacrificed for, remember this. Protecting yourself isn't cruelty. Setting boundaries isn't revenge. And sometimes, the greatest love you can show someone is refusing to let them destroy themselves completely. Even when it costs you everything. Especially then. I closed my eyes and listened to the evening birds. Tomorrow I'd call Noah about next week's visit. Tomorrow I'd deposit another payment into Emma's trust. Tomorrow I'd continue building this new version of family, one careful choice at a time. But tonight I just sat in the peace I'd fought for. The peace that came from knowing I'd done what was right even when it was hard. Even when it hurt. Even when it meant standing alone in the darkness of a locked basement and deciding that I was worth more than being hidden away. The door had clicked shut that day. But I'd found the key to open it myself. And I'd never let anyone lock it again.